It's fair to say that the Chibnall era of Doctor Who was quite divisive. Now, the fandom has always been opinionated, and that's not a bad thing, but this era more than any other caused some very loud debates. Some people loved it, some people hated it. This is Doctor Who's Marmite, and spoiler alert, I don't like Marmite. Now, I don't want to shit on something you enjoy. Although this era wasn't for me, I'm really happy if you enjoyed it. If this is your era and your safe space, that's brilliant, so feel free to disagree with a lot I'm going to say in this video. And I'm going to try to do things slightly differently. I don't want to just shout into the void all my problems with this era, because there's enough content out there that does that already. Instead, I want to take just one element that annoys me, probably my biggest gripe with the whole era, and work through it like I would when I help new writers on their screenplays. And this gripe is simple: flawed characters. At a quick glance, 13 has a lot of flaws. She's sarcastic, secretive, contradictory in her morals and behaviours. She lets people constantly take the fall for her, and she causes some pretty big atrocities. And yet critics of this era, myself included, never seem to connect with any of these. And I think the reason for this is pretty simple. The show never allows these to actually be flaws. Let me explain. Whenever I work with writers on their screenplays, I usually always focus on character first. A plot can change, arcs and structure could be refined, but if the characters aren't there to start with, they're usually fighting a losing battle. This is because characters are the beating heart of most work of fiction. When people say they love a world, such as Westeros or Hogwarts, it's usually because of the people or creatures that populate that land. We as an audience like to have a connection. We don't cry just because a plot is sad, but because a character we've grown to love is suffering through it. And it's characters that keep audiences coming back for more. We've all sat through a show that feels stale or far-fetched but continued watching, no longer for the plot, but because we're not ready to let go of the people we've formed a relationship with. And during this character work, the main thing that seems to stumble writers more than anything, even pro writers, is character flaws. And I think this is because they're using the term as a viewer does, not as a writer's tool. You can give a character 1,000 flaws. Maybe they drink too much, eat loudly, cheat on their partner, maybe they're bad parents, or perhaps even smaller than that. Maybe they never clean the microwave out and it's really bloody annoying. And all of these are fine on a surface level, but you as the creative need to actually use them. Otherwise they're not flaws, they're just quirks. They mean nothing more than a hair colour or if a character can dance.
Don't make me do the old soft shoe shuffle.
Sorry, say what you want about this era, but I love the way he delivers that line.
Don't make me do the old soft shoe shuffle.
What a melon. Instead, flaws need to drive your narrative, your arcs, and the story that you're wishing to tell. It's these flaws that help audiences relate to a character and can forgive them for awful actions. The reason we don't think Woody in Toy Story is a maniac for basically trying to kill Buzz is because the action is rooted in relatable flaws. He's jealous, he's scared of being forgotten or replaced, and these traits make him act out and retaliate, and that's basically the driving force of the narrative. And this is the same with any genre. If we take a typical sitcom like Friends, now in sitcoms the characters tend to be more flawed than other genres, mainly because it's easier to mine them for comedic effect, but Friends actually utilises them incredibly well in its plots. Rachel isn't just spoilt because it's funny, but instead it drives her character arc for most of the show. Ross's jealousy eventually gets the better of him and causes him to lose the love of his life. Joey's womanizing ways means he barely ever finds a real romantic connection, and when he does, he loses it pretty quickly. Chandler's sarcasm is rooted in his insecurities, Monica's need to be liked gets her in multiple problems, and Phoebe is, well, she's perfect, don't fucking come for her. They're understandable, and because of this we don't immediately hate them when they do something morally wrong. And this brings me back to the 13th Doctor. For some reason, the show refuses to acknowledge anything the Doctor does wrong in this era. Consequences don't exist when it comes to our actions, and it's infuriating because consequences is where drama lives and breathes. So I'm going to take just 2 of 13's biggest ignored flaws, explain why I don't think they work, and try and offer some quick solutions like I would when working with writers. Starting with keeping secrets. Okay, so out of the points I'm going to make, this is the one that the show does actually try and acknowledge. It's definitely there. Not really as a plot, but it's mentioned a lot, and the show does tease us with the idea that it's going to become a bigger problem in the future. However, it never does. Like, ever. It just stays exactly the same. It is just another thing that happens. When you realise just how secretive 13 is, you notice how little her companions actually know about the show they're in. They're never told about the Timeless Child revelation, about the Fugitive Doctor, about her complicated past relationship with the Master, or about Division. And there's definitely more I'm forgetting, but that's a lot. And this in itself isn't the issue. The closed-off secretive Doctor can work. A doctor putting on a brave face, pretending their problems or fears doesn't exist, can work. It should work, but it never means anything. We never explore why she's doing it, why she can't tell anything to the person she literally describes as one of the best people I've ever met.
I think you're one of the greatest people I've ever known.
And what makes this infuriating for me is that there's such an easy fix, which is just make it have consequences. If the Doctor's always secretive, then put the companions in a life or death situation which would easily be solved if the Doctor just told them something. Or if that's too dramatic, just have Yaz absolutely lose it with her, refusing to go anywhere until she opens up. I know some people would say that the secrets did affect Yaz emotionally, but barely. I mean, the show literally brings it up in her last episode as a joke.
She's still not explaining anything then.
Honestly, I thought this would be the reason Yaz finally leaves the TARDIS. She just has enough of the secrets. She loves the Doctor, but realises that she struggles to trust her and doesn't feel like she can put her life on the line for someone like that. And then that would force the Doctor into an uncomfortable decision. Open up and tell Yaz what she wants to know, or keep it private and lose your friend in the process. But at least the show is aware of this flaw. It does nothing with it, but it's not oblivious that it's there. Unlike letting others take the fall. Honestly, I don't think the 13th Doctor does this as much as it feels. However, when it does happen, it is incredibly jarring. Now, every showrunner is going to approach the character differently, but 13 letting side characters take the fall for her just goes against a lot of actions we've previously seen from the character. I mean, he couldn't even destroy the Potato Men without giving them a choice first. And it never feels like 13 struggles in these moments either. She acts more like I do when someone offers me money. I pretend to protest, ask, "Oh, are you sure? You don't have to," while opening my wallet. And it's so obvious when this happens that the show itself doesn't see it as a bad thing. It's never commented on or leads to any kind of consequence. And this annoys me, not because it's inherently a bad thing, it's just missed potential. A Doctor that lets people take the fall would be so interesting. What a complicated and difficult flaw this character suddenly has. Make it rooted in her personality. For example, what if she's petrified of death? This would work really well if you think about where she actually came from. Her last incarnation welcomed death. He was ready to say goodbye, going so far as to refusing to regenerate until the last second. But what if this had an effect on 13? She's scared of how close to the edge she once was and now can't face it as bravely as she once did. So when people offer to take the fall, she takes it. She's filled with regret and shame, but still accepts it as it's better than the alternative. And honestly, I don't know how well this would actually work. It is possible that it changes too much of the core character, but at least it's a new direction for them to take it in. It offers something we haven't really seen before, and it makes us as the audience question this hero we're rooting for. And I think this would fix some people's issues with it because it's relatable. Like I said before, audiences forgive actions much more easily if they're rooted in relatable flaws and emotions. And I'm talking about 13 just because there's more for me to say. I could talk in depth about how 15 and Ruby's lack of flaws is one of the major reasons people didn't buy into their friendship, but I want to wait and see how this era plays out before diving deeply into it. This new era is still, well, new, and I hope season 1 is just this creative team finding their feet again. But let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything I said. Make sure to hit the like button if you liked it, because that just makes sense, and I'll see you in the next video.